Welcome to the Independent Rep Podcast, the podcast for medical sales reps, distributors, and growth-minded manufacturers who want to succeed in today's changing market. Hosted by John Wilson, former OR rep and now medical device recruiter, this show dives into what's really working out in the field, from deal making to distributor dynamics and everything in between. If you're building your career or your company in medtech, you're in the right place.
All right, so today we have Eric Anderson, who I'm excited to have on because you're doing a lot of different things, but you have an active distributorship right now in North Florida. So Eric, could you start out kind of telling us about how you got started in medical sales and how that transferred into what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, John, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And yeah, so I started back in medical sales actually back in the late 90s as I date myself. And I went to work for a company called Synthes that now everybody calls J&J MedTech. But I did that in late 1990s and made my way through several different positions within basically orthopedics and medical sales, and was at one point in time a VP at a company and manager, several different organizations. And the business changed. And now that whether that's bad, good, or indifferent, it just changed. And there was, let's just say, people came into the industry who probably didn't really understand the industry. And I started sitting in on meetings, having people say the most ridiculous things that made no sense. And it was just the kindest way to say that people that had no idea what they were talking about. And so I just decided at one point in time, and this was in 2019, I was like, I cannot sit around and listen to stuff like this anymore. They didn't know what they were talking about. So I left.
After about 30 years then, you started...
Yeah. It was more like 20 years.
What were those questions? Just give me a little bit of flavor of like what was not connecting from the people that you were talking to what, because I've heard this before from other distributors when they go to, corporate locations, about talking about quotas and market share and those kinds of things and targets, especially with brand new capital equipment, expecting market adoption to be a lot faster.
Yep.
So that's when you said what you said, that was what I remembered from some of my other conversations. What were you, is there any kind of specifics you can give me on that, or a flavor?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm speaking specifically about surgeon preference items. So implants and things of that nature. And what happened is, and I'll just be blunt and perfectly honest about it, they started inserting people into our industry, or people came into our industry from GE. That's what happened. They came in from GE. And of course, at GE, if you pull these 7 levers and you're this Sigma black belt and you do this 9 things, then by Tuesday morning of the following month, you're going to be at 14.9% market share. I mean, they have it. And in that business, when you sell light bulbs or fans, that works. It's a completely different business with orthopedic surgeon that looks at you and goes, yeah, I'm going to use Tom because I've known him for 24 years and he's the godfather of my son. Mm-hmm. And so that doesn't factor into that thought process with a lot of these guys. And it's not their fault. It just didn't. Yeah. But they would just sit there and you would hear these things that they would say and you would go, you have no idea what you're talking about on any level. And that's scary. And that's really, those are the things that were being said. And so they were just befuddled when you get in these large group meetings and, these, now there were some that really got it. There were some that, we had a CEO at Smith and Nephew who got it. He understood. He knew that, it was a relationship that was driven by sales. Marketing had absolutely nothing to do with it. Hell, my first company at Synthes, when I was at Synthes, we didn't have a marketing department. They put on surgeon education courses. So anyway, it just a lot of those people came into the industry and quite a few of them left. But in the meantime, they kind of left a little bit of a wake of destruction, to be perfectly honest. But so they came in and then they left and they realized that they had to get back. As much as they hated it, they were kicking and screaming. They didn't want it to be the case, but it was that relationships were what sales was built upon. And, that could take several different, tacts and paths. But the reality is that's what occurred in the surgeon preference item. I couldn't speak to that, but a little bit different. Yeah.
A little more budget and hospital driven, but yeah.
Okay.
So that in 2019, then you kind of started switching over to becoming an independent distributor.
Yeah. So I left, and, ironically, a lot of my friends that I knew had kind of matriculated out into their own companies, smaller companies. Mostly all of ours were, again, physician preference items. And, our name of our organization is Extremity Surgical. And so obviously, where a lot of our products were extremities and shoulders. That was back then one of the largest growing segments, still is actually. So that's why I decided to focus on that. And so completely different world. Now, went from ready-made markets to, hey, we need to call on these surgeons, to everything's approved, to none of your products are approved. Yeah, you know these surgeons, but you're going to have to stand tall with them shoulder to shoulder and get these things approved in different locations and accounts. So that was a challenge. A challenge that I didn't really expect that it was that big of a challenge, but it was.
Absolutely. That's a massive, big step. How long did that take you to start off? And then also, how long did it take you to kind of find the products that you were going to put in your bag for that move? Was that pretty straightforward? That part
it
was
was
good.
It was relatively straightforward. I kind of knew a selection of the products that I was looking at. Ironically, a lot of those have changed over the last 6 years. Now they've come and gone, quite a few of them, but there's some that I've stayed with. But I'll tell you, it's if anybody's listening to this right now and they're saying to themselves, hey, I want to go become an independent rep, you really need to spend a good deal of time understanding your marketplace, understanding what products that you're going to carry, that you're going to be able to get market adoption from, and really have the opportunity to go to your surgeons that you want to work with. And most of the people listening right now are probably under a non-compete. I would suggest, if you're under a non-compete, don't violate a non-compete, but there are ways to work with those surgeons, whether you work with, a team that you bring on that you work with, or I'm not going to tell everybody how to circumvent non-competes, but you can get the picture. You can figure that out on your own, but do it legally and
drive 2 hours away for your first year or first 2 years or something.
They do. Yeah.
Absolutely. I talked to somebody, he'll be on here a little bit later about that.
Yeah. And it's a reality, but if you have a good strategic plan and you prepare, if you're sitting here listening to this right now and okay, I'm going to go out on my own, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to develop a plan, go out and do your research and have a strategy. Don't go, you know what, on Tuesday, I'm going to call on Dr. Smith because he's my best friend and, he'll do anything for me. Well, you better know that Dr. Smith is going to do what he says he's going to do for you, and make sure that that's going to happen, because if it doesn't, you're starting at zero and you're going to multiply on zero. So you better make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were making that leap, what we've talked a little bit about it. Can you give me kind of an anecdote of one of those challenges that came up, how long it took you to solve it, and kind of like what happened? Maybe a doctor that said, hey, yeah, I'll use your stuff. But then when push came to shove, he was like, the hospital's not going to help me out here. And he or she was like, I gotta go with my other stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, anything no, it happens. Oh yeah, it happens all the time. Yeah. You'll get all these commitments, and then they're like, then comes the piece of the puzzle where they got to go to administration and fight for something, and then they go, yeah, well, I've got my son's baseball game on that Tuesday night for that meeting, and it just, so you're relying on someone else that is a super busy individual to make time to make sure that you can have a business that's going to prosper. So just think about that. There's a lot of reliance on other people. So you've got to make sure that when you sit down with them, like, hey, this is the voyage we're going to go on. And if you feel at any point in time that they're kind of wavering, they're not going to do it. They will not do it. Or I shouldn't say they're not knowingly not doing it. They just can't. They don't have the time. And it's, we'll talk more about that later in the podcast, but doctors are, their time right now is they have the least amount of spare time that they've ever had.
Totally.
And it's getting worse.
Yeah. And then they also have competing priorities. You're not the only rep that's asking them to make these kinds of choices.
Absolutely.
When you were also going back to making the switch over to being independent, how many surgeons did you have, round numbers, where you're like, okay, this is a pretty good book of business as far as surgeon relationships that I'm confident will help me move forward? Yeah.
So I had about 10 that I was in contact with, wanting to make the move. In the end, and if some of them are listening to this, they're going to go, I tried to help you. They're good customers now, but
I'd love it.
There's probably about 3 or 4 that really were like, okay, we'll carry the sword. We'll do this for you. We're going to make this happen. And really, in the end, it was really one or two that, were like, ride or die type guys that we're going to do it. So you better know that those people, who they are and who they are in your court. Now, there is the situation where, and this is very few and far between, that, a company will come to you and they already have some residual business that you can just, pick up, that others have been calling on. There's already approvals in the hospitals,
that's nice.
And they want you to pick up the ball and run with it. And that's a great situation. And we had that situation with one of the companies that we were with. But, the
that
group
comes,
before you is not doing well. So there's a reason why they want to change.
Yeah, that comes after you grow too. And you've kind of established yourself with these manufacturers. So going forward with that, what territory did you start to cover? And I mean, are you growing now? Do you have sub reps at all? What's your plans right now with your distributorship?
Yeah, so we cover the entire state of Florida. We have reps that are in all the major cities, and then I have reps, and we have teams in most of the major cities in Florida.
Nice.
Predominantly Central Florida and North Florida. So we're kind of what we call I-4 North. Is where we do the majority of our business. And yeah, we're always looking to grow. We're always evaluating new products, and we always want to know, I will tell you, once you get into this, you will get absolutely inundated by companies that want you to sell for them. Now, they're going to come to you and they're going to go, hey, this is the greatest product ever on earth. And this is, and then you got to ask these questions. One, is this a product, in the marketplace now? Usually it is, yes. Two, where are you contractually approved? And that will wean it down real quick, because we've just chosen, unless it's earth-shattering technology. We have one company that I feel is earth-shattering technology that I'm willing to go to work for, to get approvals. But if you're and I'm sorry, guys, I'm just going to say it. If you're another biologic and you're going to come down the street and you're going to say to me, hey, we're just like, and we need this and we don't have approval, I'm sorry. I totally understand that you're trying to increase your book of business, but we're probably not a good partner for you.
Yeah, and that's really good. And there's plenty of other people out there that they can go to for that, especially when you have that level of, I guess I'm talking about biologics too right now. There are 70, 80 companies in that space that are doing the same stuff. There's a lot of distributors out there that they can just pick up.
Yeah. They're the same exact product, and I don't care what they say. It's the same exact thing.
So that was a good list of questions right there. So are you in the market? Where are you contractually approved? And then what was the other question? Did you have another one?
Yeah, I mean, and do you currently, and then what I always ask is, okay, what is your surgeon, your key opinion leaders? Who are they? Who is currently using the product? Where, when, how? Yeah, where, when, how? Those type questions, and listen, they all have key opinion leaders, and I know that they all, they're paid to say things about the products. But you also know when you start, if you've been doing this for a little while and you start doing your research, which surgeons are out there, which physicians that are out there that will give you a very unbiased, hey, this product is a great product and this is why. They will give you unbiased. There are others that, won't. How about that?
Okay, so then going from, you have W-2 employees for yourself, or do you guys just go 1099 for everything?
It's an excellent question. This is actually a strategy meeting that I just had this week. We are currently all 1099 right now, but that's going to probably change for us, where we are going to go to W-2 in certain markets.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Just kind of help some younger associates. Is that the strategy, or?
Yeah, that's going to be the strategy.
Yeah.
But it also is, in the W-2 world, there's much better alignment. How about that? I don't want to use the word control. I want to use the word alignment on, what you're trying to achieve and what you want to have your team be doing on a daily basis.
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if you are trying to grow something that is an organization rather than just kind of a network of other reps. So that makes a lot of sense. Do you have certain territories where you're having to, and you don't have to answer any of these questions, by the way, where you might have some products for a rep in South Florida that you don't have in North Florida, and how do you kind of navigate that bag to help everybody kind of make ends meet and kind of have business for everything on their day-to-day, I guess?
Yeah, so the answer to your question is yes. Yeah, they're in different locations. We have different products that we have access to. And those reps, I'm never going to hire somebody, and I've learned this the hard way. I'm never going to hire somebody if they don't have true opportunity. I'm not going to say, hey, here's 3 of these different products, and there's no approvals in hospitals, or there's no access, and I'm not going to do that. If I'm going to bring somebody on, they're going to have legitimate opportunity. Here's a market, that has a $7 million potential. We currently have this amount of business in that marketplace. With 10% market share, you have a $700,000 revenue territory. Those type of things.
Yeah.
It just comes from my background in being able to gauge those opportunities.
So your experience is helping you make those decisions. Any key metrics when you're looking at territory to help, so if let's say you're talking to a distributor in Texas that has all of Texas, and he or she is trying to figure out how to hire reps and make sure that they have that opportunity. Are there any key metrics and how you just kind of decipher the geography for them?
Yeah. So I always go by geography and not by surgeon. I know other people do that way. I don't necessarily want multiple team members in one account stepping all over each other. Now, if you have to make, certain decisions because of certain surgeons, that's a whole other different story. Key metrics that I look at is market potential, is surgeon demographics, where, when, how, who those are, who the surgeons are, where they're located. And then lastly, what I think is the most important out of all this, what access do we have? Because I can give you, this territory does 40 million in this procedure. Well, if you don't have any access to the accounts, why that then your market potential is 0. I'm sorry, that's what it is. I mean, to hire somebody and to spend money, salary wise, guarantee wise, just time wise, all of that, with absolutely no access, it makes no sense. So that's where the key metrics for me are market potential, current revenue, and then most importantly, what is the access look like?
Access is really what the 1099 independent rep really brings to the table for manufacturers, but as surgeons, is that kind of being the nexus of that.
Absolutely.
Really good point. And I think that brings us to kind of like what you're doing now. You've added some things in terms of marketing and all of this stuff. How do you increase access for your reps and for yourself?
Yeah, and that for me, starting out, it used to be that I would shoulder a lot of that burden. Now I try to team up with companies who have and listen, I have some companies that don't have this, and it's a hindrance, but it is what it is. But I want to work with companies, and these are the questions. If they come and sit down with us and they want to do certain things, I want to know, what does their account acquisition, as far as key accounts, contracting, a corporate account, I want to know what their team looks like. I mean, I have a company now that they have nobody, and it's very frustrating. Mm-hmm. I live with it because it is, a nice amount of business, but you really want to partner with companies who have a strategy around gaining access. Not, well, you just talk to those surgeons that and then have them go to the VAC committee. And that's really what you used to do in 2004. I mean, those are the old days. I mean, and when I hear that, I thank them for the time, and I don't really want to talk anymore about it, because it is a waste of our time.
How do you coach younger reps on kind of increasing it could be credibility, increasing their access, growing their own careers, I suppose. If you're talking to some of these younger men or women that you're bringing onto your team, what are some of the things that you try and do to help?
Yeah, so I tell everyone, I mean, we are big in our team utilizing social media, utilizing personalized video, utilizing those different things to provide value to surgeons. And that's a huge part of what I expect them to do, because the days of going and knocking on doors and driving 2 hours across town and then, buying lunch for the whole office is ludicrous. Mm-hmm. We're not doing that anymore. Rather, if you're listening to this right now and you're scratching your head, I mean, and I say this to everybody, you are a media company. If you are an individual and you are selling products to, whether it's a physician or whoever, you better learn how to become a media company, because that's how people are going to figure out whether or not they want to buy from you. They got to know you before they meet you. And that's what they do now with social media. And that's what you do with personalized video. And a lot of people are, especially on our team, we utilize it on a daily basis. We have to, because if you're not, you're going to be the one who's going to be having to buy, 40 different lunches and salads and bribing people with food. It just doesn't. Those are the old days.
How do you conceptualize, and this is kind of, you're generous coming on this show, talking about your business. A lot of other distributors have been as well. At the same time, there's a lot of this, guardedness. You don't want to give away too much information. When you're using social media, how do you draw that line of, okay, well, my competitors are going to be watching this too? How do you sit with that in your head, I guess?
I'll tell you, John, at first I used to be very guarded about it, and now I could care less. I give away everything. I tell all information, because you know what? 99.9% of them aren't going to do anything with it anyway. So
that's a really good point.
I want them to know, I want, when somebody sees what we do in content wise, marketing wise, they can find out whether, now I'm not going to, divulge certain information, but, any kind of value we can give away, we give it away.
Yeah. I've found that, people who are really guarded with information are usually the ones that aren't getting out there and doing the daily things that they need to succeed anyway.
Yep.
So, all right, going forward, are you excited about any kind of trends in the orthopedic extremity market? Any products that you're excited about or trends of products? If you want to talk about knee robots, we can do that all day long, but we don't have to.
No, I mean, I'll just go more broad. There's a ton of new technology coming down the pike in extremities. I think that there's going to be a lot of new technology that's going to be cutting edge. I think there's going to be a lot of assimilation with AI and different information type products that are going to occur with implants. I mean, there's a lot of neat stuff it's being worked on right now. So it's exciting. And that's not even in just extremities. I think it's, whether it's wound care, whether it's going to be, there's a lot of interesting stuff that's going on. It's going to be interesting because I think the companies who understand how to help patients heal faster and can do it in a cost-effective way through information pathways, I think are really, really, really going to do well. That's where it's, the wheelhouse. If you're coming out with another ankle plating system because the screws make different angles than the other ones, I mean, come on. I would immediately stop that project if you're listening to this, because there's about 500 of those products on the market right now that surgeons can choose from. So, yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, anybody listening to this, obviously we're biased in the 1090, the 1099 independent representative world, but man, I'll tell you, if you're really good at what you do, you're an excellent salesperson, an excellent, know your products inside and out, and excellent customer service, you are going to excel so well in the marketplace moving forward. Because here I get on my soapbox, but the large strategics in the space, they're just hiring a bunch of service people. They aren't salespeople anymore. They're just people who sit there and open boxes. And if you have critical sales skills, and when I mean sales, I mean not trying to get somebody to buy something. It's more trying to try to find a solution for them. If you have that kind of strategic mindset, you are going to destroy all of these large companies that have, essentially hired tons and tons of service people. They do a good job. I mean, everybody needs to have a box open, but that's where it ends.
That's a great, you bring up a great point. So what's a sales cycle for let's say just take your flagship product in your mind. What is that sales process from start to finish for a medium tenured rep, let's say, maybe their fourth year?
Yeah. So, the standard protocol is 7 to 8 touches before you really even get a meeting in front of a surgeon. That's what they say, 7 or 8 touches. I'm going to tell you, I think it's considerably more. I think we're talking more like 15 or 16 touches, but touches can be through social media. Touches can be through providing value to that surgeon. And so when looking at that sales process, I think any way you can not only accelerate that process, because usually when you say accelerate, that is often lends the thought to, speed it up, it's going to be haphazard. No, what I'm talking about is utilizing personalized video, utilizing different technology platforms that allows you to provide value. Those touches become more. And so, I know you want to get kind of more quantitative in a sales cycle time frame. I think anyway, the way you can get, to sit down meeting, because social media and all the different things and personalized video that we talk about and with our team, it's all about getting you more face-to-face meetings, because face-to-face is where it's at. All of those are an adjunct to get you to face-to-face, because, you know, anyway, we could go down, this could be a whole other podcast, but there's going to be the time when there's going to be AI bots that are they are going to contact surgeons and physicians. It's coming. They're trying to figure out a way to do it. You're going to be talking to AI, and everybody knows what it is. And I don't care what you say. Well, in 5 years, you'll never have any idea. Listen, unless you're a humanoid robot walking into a surgeon's office, they're going to know, they know who you are. So anyway, long story short and long answer for any way that you can create value through every touch with a surgeon, that's the best sales process that you can adopt. And not just, let me go on the first one, hey, let me get in front of you and have a lunch. You're just trying to bribe them with food at that point.
Mm-hmm. So just delivering value on every little interaction.
Every interaction delivering value. I mean, because if you know a surgeon uses a certain product and your product has some different capabilities that they may not have known, any way you can share that information puts you one step ahead, because it's helping their surgeons. And don't lead with, and if you use this by next Tuesday at 5:00, one of those stupid sales things, but you'd have to be strategic in how you are able to present that product.
All right. Well, all right. So we've talked a little bit about this. Well, we touched on it. What's your biggest opportunity that you see coming down the road? And that'll be a good question to end on here.
Yeah. So I think that the opportunity, and I'm not even going to talk product, I'm going to talk overall. If you're sitting here listening to this now and you're working for a large strategic, or you're deciding that you're going to go out on your own, create a plan around it and do it. Do it, because you're going to do so well, because your competition are just trained box openers. And a lot of, and I'm sorry to say that people are going to probably listen and go, I can't believe he's talking about, salespeople like that, but it's the worst it's ever been. And so the opportunity is huge. And so for us, we're excited. I mean, if you're a company with a revolutionary new technology and you kind of check the boxes that I talked about before, we'd love to talk to you. If you're a company that that is trying to get into a marketplace, we'd love to talk to you. So the biggest opportunity for me is being independent, being able to gauge who you work with, which companies you work with, and not the other way around where you're being told what to do and working for a large company that obviously is not exciting or challenging.
Awesome. All right, Eric. Well, so if people want to get in touch with you, Eric I. Anderson on LinkedIn.
Yep, that's me, Eric I. Anderson. I'm there every day. You'll see me constantly posting. You please do follow, because I try to share as much value as I possibly can, all about whether it be medical sales and or content and or personalized video, and how you can get your ideal customer to know, like, and trust you. That's what we do.
Well, thanks a lot for joining me on a Monday morning, Eric.
Yep. Thank you, John. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
You got it. All right.
Thanks for listening to the Independent Rep Podcast. If you got value from today's episode, please follow, share, and leave a review. To connect with John or learn more about succeeding in medical device sales, visit theindependentrep.com. Until next time, keep grinding, keep learning, and stay independent.